Hey everyone, thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. My name's Luke, co-founder, CEO here at Dropback. We are a front office platform built for college sports. We come at this problem a little differently. Me and my co-founder Nick are both tech heads. We've been engineers our entire career. We met each other actually interning together at Huddle back in the day. I then led a product team at Microsoft, then led an engineering and product team at a Series A turned Series B health tech company in the Bay Area for about 2 years, working a ton with big data, HIPAA and really highly sensitive data. And my co-founder Nick was working at a GovTech company similarly with data. And being sports geeks and tech heads, we were like, this entire world of data beyond just analytics, but actually compensation data is making its way down to college sports by the way of rev share. We had a wonderful presentation yesterday about the whole headwinds of the NCAA versus House settlement coming into play here. TLDR of what Woj and Andrew Luck said yesterday, starting this July, $20.5 million is going to be allocated to athletes through revenue sharing for every single sport in Division I. And so assuming that all Power 4 schools opt in, over $1.5 billion worth of dollars are going to be allocated to student athletes directly from institutions for the first time. And so what Dropback is simply put, we help teams make winning decisions. And the newest competitive edge in the new era of college sports is to manage your roster financially, optimize your talent, maximize your spend, and do so on our product, which is all about letting teams create and monitor budgets, build data-driven cap strategies, as well as automate contracts and payroll. We set out to basically build a vertically integrated SaaS platform for college sports, but rather than reinventing the wheel, we tried to understand what NFL and NBA front offices already do, because they've had the problem for decades of maximizing their salary cap and having to deal with everything downstream. How do we value how do we value athletes with data, analytics, insights, and bring in together our information about our culture, our problems, and our different prospects we want to bring into the building? How do we actually do that with technology? And the answer is every single NFL and NBA team actually build their own technology in-house. They hire software engineers, quant researchers, ML engineers, data scientists to build this bespoke front office database, as they call it, to manage a lot of this information and do a lot of analytics around how do we actually maximize our cap. What's really interesting, though, when we dove into this problem is that every team thinks theirs is the best and that they have the coolest solution and the really most unique data points, which they might. But operationally, when you zoom out 10,000 feet, a lot of the products actually look the same. It's functionally very, very similar. And that's where we come in to say, how do we provide 80% of the value of front office tools that NFL and NBA teams have at 20% of the cost for college sports? Because again, for the first time, college teams now have to not only try to get a winning team on the field, but they have to build that winning team off the field through cap management. And so we set out with that vision to build the front office platform for college sports. We went through Y Combinator, one of the top startup accelerators in the country. We were a part of their W24 batch this last year, and we raised $1.6 million, just closed our pre-seed here a few months ago, backed by Reach Capital, Y Combinator, 22 Ventures, and a lot of those firms have also invested in companies like Airbnb, DoorDash, Coinbase, and The Athletic. And so what we have found since we've launched in October has been really resounding testimonials throughout this portal. I'm really, really excited to share that Georgia and Northwestern are two of our biggest clients so far. We're about to close a recent national champion, as well as one of our new conferences in the ACC, which is really exciting. But all to be said, our 5+ teams that use our software know that they need to bring a new competitive edge to their team through data, analytics, and insights to manage their new front office. And these teams use Dropback to actually manage a lot of those operations. So zooming out, what is Dropback? We've heard a lot about how front offices actually work in the college space. Again, over the last 6 months, we've seen the trend of GMs being hired for teams like the Bonnies and Northwestern, the Bonnies and Andrew Luck at Stanford, but then now they're actually building out their own stabs. And we believe that how graphic designers use Photoshop, Dropback will be the canonical tool that GMs and front office staff members use for college sports. We're a little different than other tools you might see in the industry. There's a lot of other GM tools that exist out there through large competitors and incumbents. They're really, really focused on kind of these middle two areas, budgeting and paying players. How much do we allocate to the football team? And now I want to spend $100,000 on Joey. But what about everything in the middle? How did I come up with $100,000? How does that impact my cap for this year? How does that project many years in advance? How do I build a contract? Should there be bonuses? Is this a multi-year contract? There's all these sophistications around how did I come up with that number in the first place? $100,000 for Joey, and how do I strategically allocate that budget and monitor spend accordingly? And so that's kind of where we jump in, is we help teams create strategic allocation strategies for their cap using data integrations for data sources that they already use and trust. We have live bespoke integrations already launched with partners like PFF, telemetry, Huddle, and more, and we also have an open API for data science departments within these teams can actually integrate directly into our service to utilize our really innovative approach to how you can actually build your cap strategy. And so the far left here, defining your rules in depth, we call this cap math. This is very basic ways to think of slot values on a team. We want to spend X% on quarterbacks. We want to have Y quarterbacks in the room. Therefore, the slot value is Z. Well, you're not just going to pay the starting quarterback your slot value. You're going to want to have to build a bespoke valuation for that player. And bespoke valuations are truly bespoke to every team. Our client Northwestern might handle academics, and that might be way more important about a quarterback than maybe, say, another team who wants to think 100% about certain types of QBR metrics and different offensive grades. And so what we do is we have built a no-code drag and drop platform for teams to build their own value formulas within our product. And so for the first time, not having to be an engineer, you can build your way on how you want to value, let's say, a running back. Do you value seniority, agility, 40-yard dash time, offensive grades? You get to decide, you can pipe in the data, you choose your baselines and targets, and then what we do is all the messy stuff in the back end. We are able to actually clean and sync that data from all your different data sources, and then apply your value models to every player in the D1, D2, D3, JUCO, and high school to give you a predicted contract value of where you can begin negotiations with these agents, high school students, and transfer portal prospects. And so today what happens is, athletes will come to the table with their agent, who might also be their uncle, and they'll say, yeah, Jimmy's worth $250,000. And today coaches, if they really want the kid, they're like, all right, I guess I'll do that. But for the first time, what Dropback's able to give our clients is to be able to say, no, because, or yes, we're going to knowingly spend that dollar amount because we have built a defensible, transparent process on a valuation that we agree with you. And so we're finally giving tools to athletic departments and general managers to make intelligent, data-driven decisions around how they're financially building their cap. The final slide here is all the other stuff downstream is stuff we've been recently shipping around being able to adjust your depth chart, have multiple different contingency inversion scenarios, and then going even deeper into actually contract management. These GMs tell us, imagine running an NFL, NBA, MLB team all within the span of an athletic department. Well, welcome to the post-house era. You're negotiating with agents, you're negotiating with athletes, and at that scale, they need help actually, tracking these negotiation progresses, creating and generating contracts, managing these contract workflows, red lines, e-signatures. All of that functionality is also built directly into our platform. So much to say here, but really, really excited and proud of the traction that we've had over the last 6 months of being live. Like I mentioned, Northwestern was one of our first design clients. We've actually gone up into selling to Georgia. We're launching our basketball product soon, and actually Woj is one of our very first clients, which we're excited to publicly announce here very, very soon. And at our current pace, once we are converting our current trials to an annual on July 1st, and based on our late funnel pipeline, we're looking at about $500,000 in ARR and revenue on July 1st based on our current traction. So really excited to answer more questions. And the call to action, we are hiring founding engineers. So please, if you're an engineer, you love college sports, and you want to solve an interesting problem with us, we'd love to have you join the team. Happy to answer questions. Thanks.
Thank you. That was great. So I guess first question, I know we're entering into like a new world with college athletics and that $20 million. So I guess my understanding is that $20 million has to be spread across all sports. So you mentioned building a basketball product, but how do you think about, and presumably, I don't know, I'm assuming most schools are going to allocate most of the $20 million to football and basketball, but there's other sports, other athletes. How do you build baseball, volleyball, lacrosse into your platform, or have you already?
Absolutely, yeah, great question. We've actually built the product to be sports agnostic. The only sports-specific parts of our product is our integration with general roster databases and integration with sports-specific data sources. So like tracking football, obviously only relevant to football. And so we kind of focus where the big fish was, which is football and basketball, but we have built our product to where if you want to use this for women's lacrosse scholarship management, you can. Or if you're going to revenue share less than $1 million with the women's soccer team, you can also do that. And so, actually one of our clients that we're talking to late stage negotiations with, they're planning on using Dropback for 6 of their, sports. They have 20 sports in their athletic department, but they're revenue sharing with 6 of them. And so all to be said, that actually admin experience also lives on Dropback. You can start with your 20.5, allocate to your sports accordingly, and then every sport has their own environment to actually do a lot of this creative roster construction and evaluation for every GM across every team. So short answer is we manage and can have the ability to adapt to all sports, but have focused a lot on football and basketball just as we've launched.
We've heard so much about data, obviously, this conference, but by sport, sort of the magnitude and the available data by sport, with women's sports and smaller sports being at the bottom of the totem pole. Mm-hmm. So on that point, when you say, let's just take women's softball in a college, if there's not enough data to go in to kind of drive your expected valuation, can you talk a bit about whether that poses a problem for expansion for you, or how you're going to go about getting that rich data that we know we have in football and basketball?
Yeah, that's actually the wonderful part about how we have built this product is that we are not a consulting company, we are not a data company, we are a platform. And so this is a SaaS, no-code platform, completely self-serve, to where teams actually bring to us the data sources that they trust the most. And so, there are some amazing, as you said, analytics, insights that we have seen, new data streams that are being, optimized, as we've heard about through all this conference. Our goal is, hey, if you want that data stream in Dropback, talk to us. And so that's actually how we've built out our 10 plus integrations so far. And so what our hope is that the industry and that, women's sports like softball grows, and that more data is available, and therefore that data can be piped into Dropback, and, softball can get the exact same power that football is getting today. So the solution to that problem is, we have been very data agnostic. We're trying to kind of be the Fivetran of sports data in that way, so that doesn't become a risk for us.
Are you able to address like ROI almost? Like obviously wins are pretty clear, but
Yeah.
Can you, at like the player level, say, hey, we spent $3 million on a quarterback and it was worth it or it wasn't?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, everyone talks about Moneyball, obviously, but to even take a step back from ROI, like these GMs for the first time with the salary cap era, if you overspend in your finance job or your just regular job at your 8 to 5, you're fired. If you don't meet your KPIs, you're fired. And your boss in this world of revenue sharing is your donors. And so to your point, if a donor is going to spend $3 to $4 million to help you roll your team, and you're 3 and 8, you got to answer these questions. And today, these GMs have no defensibility to their problem solving. They just have spreadsheets worth of information, and they have written scouting reports to try to say, well, we thought this guy was going to be awesome. But for the first time, we're letting these teams actually build these defensible, transparent processes to say, this is how we arrived to this number. So number one, we are helping GMs make educated decisions to where they can have a defensible, transparent way to actually lean back on the decisions that they made. But you're totally right. I think one great ROI example is one of our biggest clients, Northwestern, started using us back in October. This is obviously pre the winter portal, and some already big case studies that we have seen is across all 136 FBS teams. They led the nation in retention for their football roster, and they acquired one of the best quarterbacks in the portal through Preston Stone, which is the quarterback who got hurt through SMU. And so they use data and insights to where if you're just watching film, you wouldn't have seen Preston because he wasn't on the field. But instead, they had a value process around how they value academics and certain age and a bunch of different variables that they have built bespoke throughout their system to actually get an outcome from the portal that sets them up really well kind of for this upcoming season. So you're totally right.
Could you just talk a little bit about addressable market, like how many schools are going to be able to actually spend the $20 million, and then who else could you sell this platform to? Because it seems really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's so exciting is twofold. One, you're totally right. Like, there's only a set number of institutions today that are going to be optimizing that 20.5 million. I think there's 2 big headwinds that we're betting on. The first is that we want to be the Rippling for college sports, the Gusto, the HR platform for college sports, because a huge anchor point of our product is actually these contracts. Like, coming up with the value is one thing. Putting that valuation of a player on a piece of paper that is signed by an agent and an athlete enables a whole nother slew of workflows that we plan and actively are owning around contract management, payroll, potentially insuring against those contracts, and so actually kind of being that full stack HR solution, which again hasn't existed because you're not going to use the same HR platform that you use for your accountant that works at the athletic department for your for your athletic programs. And so we can kind of be that verticalized, sport-specific HR product, which is interesting. And the second larger headwind is that today we believe it is an option that schools have the opportunity to rev share with their athletes. We're betting that athletes are going to collectively bargain, which will then raise the cap from 20% of revenue to 50% of revenue. And eventually there's also the macro headwind of maybe they become employees someday, to where there's not an option for schools. And so that opens up the TAM to over 2,000 institutions who have sports to actually have to think about these problems at scale. And so it's very niche, elite grade product today, but based on kind of our traction thus far, and then those kind of macro bets of of collective bargaining and also potential unionization and employee status for the athletes, the HR platform for college sports is poised to be a $100 million plus business.
What's the biggest objection you're getting when you try to go to a school?
That's a good question. The biggest objection I've gotten so far is, my Excel sheet's awesome, why do I need this? I'm like, that's fine. The NIL era, 2021 to now, that's totally cool because you're only paying half your roster, you got a couple $1 million that you're dealing with, big round numbers, but like I said, the pendulum has really swung to athletes are starting to bulk up. These NFLPA agents are starting to work its way down to the college level, and they're starting to represent the top 300 athletes. And so you have these GMs who have been coaches forever and are now having to be a CEO of their football team, and they're walking into negotiations with professional agents, kind of getting rocked. And so that's where we believe that we'll win out long term in that way. But right now, I'm okay with my legal pad. I'm okay with Excel, and we'll just be here waiting for him. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.